Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched her fleet die. Through the massive viewing screen, she could see the bright flashes of explosions as another human ship broke apart under enemy fire. The HFY were winning, just like they had been winning for the past 3 years. "Admiral, we have lost the destroyer times Phoenix *", reported her communications officer. His voice was steady, but Chen could hear the fear underneath. "Captain Morrison and his crew of 200 are gone." Chen closed her eyes for a moment. 200 more people dead, 200 more families that would never see their loved ones again. In the past week alone, she had lost 12 ships and over 4,000 crew members. The numbers were becoming too big to think about. "Order the fleet to fall back to defensive position, Beta," she said. "We cannot win this fight today." The bridge crew worked quickly at their stations. Chen could feel their disappointment. Nobody joined the Terran Colonial Alliance fleet to run away from fights. But running away was all they seemed to do these days. The HFY ships were massive, each one the size of a small city. Their dark hulls were covered in weapon systems that could tear through human ships like paper. The aliens had been conquering worlds across the galaxy for hundreds of years. They had technology that humanity could barely understand. "Admiral," said Commander Rodriguez, her second in command. "The HFY are not following us. They are heading toward the Proxima colony." Chen felt her heart sink. Proxima had 3 million people living on it. Families, children, workers who just wanted to live in peace. In a few hours, they would all be dead. The HFY did not take prisoners. They did not make deals. They simply destroyed everything human. "How many ships do we have left that can fight?" Chen asked. 17, Admiral. But most of them are damaged. We have maybe 6 ships that are ready for real combat. 6 ships against the entire HFY war fleet. It was hopeless. Chen had been fighting this war for 3 years. And every day brought more bad news. The aliens were too strong, too advanced, too many. Humanity was losing badly. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Park from the communications station. "We are getting a message from Earth Command. It is marked as urgent. Put it through." The face of General Harrison appeared on the main screen. The old man looked tired. He had dark circles under his eyes, and his uniform looked like he had been wearing it for days. "Sarah," he said, "I am afraid I have more bad news. The HFY have sent us a message. They are giving us an ultimatum." Chen felt cold. "What do they want?" "Complete surrender of Earth and all human colonies within 72 hours. If we refuse, they will destroy Earth the same way they destroyed New Tokyo and Armstrong Station." The bridge went completely silent. Everyone knew what had happened to New Tokyo. The HFY had used some kind of weapon that made the planet's core explode. 4 billion people had died in less than 10 minutes. Armstrong Station had been turned into floating debris in space. "Sir," Chen said carefully, "what are our orders?" "Fight them, Sarah. Fight them with everything we have. Humanity will not surrender without a fight. But I will be honest with you. We do not have enough ships to win. We need a miracle." The transmission ended. Chen looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They were scared, but they were still here. Still ready to fight and die for humanity. "Commander Rodriguez," she said, "take us back to Earth. We will make our stand there." "Yes, Admiral." As her ship turned toward home, Chen walked to her private office behind the bridge. She needed to think. She needed to find some way to save humanity. But she did not know how. The HFY had thousands of ships. Humanity had maybe 50 ships left that could fight. She sat down at her desk and opened her computer. Maybe there was something in the old records that could help. Some weapon or strategy that had worked before. She began searching through the military archives, looking for anything useful. That was when she found the file marked UES, Indomitable. Classified. Chen frowned. She had never heard of a ship called the Times, Indomitable *. She opened the file and began to read. What she found made her sit up straight in her chair. The Times, Indomitable Times, had been a warship from 200 years ago, during humanity's first contact with hostile aliens. According to the records, it had fought in something called the Battle of Kepler Station. The file said that one ship had held off an entire alien fleet by itself. Chen read more carefully. The Times, Indomitable Times, had been equipped with an experimental computer system called Prometheus. The file said it was some kind of advanced thinking machine that could predict what enemies would do in battle. But the strangest part was what happened at the end of the battle. The ship had sent a final message saying, "We are not retreating. We are going hunting." Then it had jumped into deep space and never came back. Most people thought it had been destroyed. Chen leaned back in her chair. Could it be true? Had humanity built a ship that could fight entire fleets by itself? And if so, where was it now? She looked at her computer screen again. According to the file, Captain Elena Vasquez had been in command of the Times, Indomitable Asterisk. The woman had been 40 years old when the ship disappeared. That was 200 years ago. Even if she was still alive somehow, she would be over 240 years old now. Chen shook her head. It was just an old story. Probably not even true. But as she looked out at the stars, she could not stop thinking about it. Humanity needed a miracle. Maybe, just maybe, that miracle was still out there somewhere in the dark between the stars. She made a decision. Tomorrow, she would start a search for any trace of the legendary warship. It was probably hopeless. But hopeless was all humanity had left. Dr. Marcus Webb looked like he had not slept in days. His gray hair was messy, and his clothes were wrinkled. He carried a metal case in his hands as he walked onto the bridge of Admiral Chen's flagship. Chen had called him here after finding the file about the Times' Indomitable Asterisk. "Admiral," Webb said, setting the case down on the table. "You asked me to bring everything we have about that old ship. I have to tell you, most of this information is classified at the highest levels. Doctor, we have less than 60 hours before the Kethvar destroy Earth," Chen replied. "I do not care about classified anymore. Tell me everything." Webb opened the case and pulled out several old data tablets. His hands were shaking slightly. "I have been studying this ship for 20 years. Most historians think the whole story is made up. But I have found evidence that it really happened." He activated one of the tablets, and a holographic image appeared above the table. It showed a sleek warship, bigger than anything in the current human fleet. The ship looked different from modern designs, more advanced somehow. The Times UES. Indomitable Times was built in secret 200 years ago. Webb began. Humanity had just made contact with a race called the Zephyrians. At first, we thought they were friendly. Then they attacked our colonies without warning. Chen studied the hologram. "What made this ship so special?" "Prometheus," Webb said, activating another file. "It was not just a computer. It was a thinking machine that could learn and grow. The scientists who built it said it could think faster than any human brain. But more than that, it could predict what enemies would do in battle." Commander Rodriguez, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. "That sounds impossible, Doctor. How can a computer predict the future?" Webb smiled sadly. "Not the future, Commander. Probability. Prometheus could calculate millions of possible battle outcomes in seconds. It could see patterns that human minds could not understand. During the Battle of Kepler Station, it supposedly achieved something even more incredible." "What?" Chen asked. "True strategic foresight. According to the classified reports, Prometheus could predict enemy movements thousands of steps in advance. It was like playing chess against someone who could see the entire game before it started." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. "What happened during that battle?" Webb pulled up another file. "The Zephyrians attacked Kepler Station with 300 ships. Humanity only had 12 ships to defend it. The Times, Indomitable Times, was one of them. When the battle started, all the human ships except the Times Indomitable Times were destroyed within the first hour." "One ship against 300? Rodriguez said in disbelief. "Yes. And it won. According to the survivors from Kepler Station, the Times Indomitable Times moved like it knew exactly where every enemy ship would be. It dodged attacks that had not even been fired yet. Its weapons hit targets from impossible distances. The battle lasted 6 hours, and when it was over, the entire Zephyrian fleet was either destroyed or running away. Chen looked at the hologram of the ship. If it was so powerful, why do we not have more ships like it? Because Prometheus was unique. The scientists who created it said they could not make another one. The technology was too advanced, and some of it they did not fully understand themselves. When the war ended, the Times Indomitable Times was the only ship of its kind. Webb activated another tablet, and the image of a woman appeared. She was tall and serious-looking, with short dark hair and intense eyes. She wore the uniform of an Earth Navy captain. Captain Elena Vasquez, Webb said. She commanded the Times, Indomitable Times, for 5 years. According to her files, she was brilliant. Top of her class at the Naval Academy. Expert in tactics and strategy. But more than that, she seemed to understand Prometheus in a way that no one else could. What do you mean? Chen asked. The other officers who served on the ship said that Vasquez and Prometheus worked together like they were reading each other's minds. They could communicate without words. Some of the crew thought the captain was becoming part of the machine somehow. Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. That sounds dangerous. Maybe it was. After the war with the Zephyrians ended, there were rumors that Prometheus was becoming too powerful. Some government officials wanted to shut it down. Others wanted to study it. Captain Vasquez opposed both ideas. She said that Prometheus was not just a machine anymore. It was alive. Webb pulled up the final file. 2 weeks before the ship disappeared, Captain Vasquez sent a message to Earth Command. She said that Prometheus had detected something in deep space, some kind of signal that suggested other hostile aliens were coming. Aliens much more dangerous than the Zephyrians. Chen felt her blood turn cold. The HFY, we cannot be sure. But the timing fits. The Times Indomitable Times left Earth space on a mission to investigate these signals. The last transmission from Captain Vasquez was received at exactly 14:32 on March 15, 2223. She said, "We are not retreating. We are going hunting. If we do not return, remember that humanity must never surrender." The bridge fell silent. Chen stared at the hologram of the mysterious warship. Could it still be out there somewhere? Could Captain Vasquez and Prometheus still be alive after 200 years? "Admiral," said Lieutenant Park from his station, "I am receiving a priority message from our scouts near Jupiter." "Put it through," Chen ordered. The voice of Captain Williams from the scout ship Times Ranger Times filled the bridge. He sounded scared. "Admiral, you need to see this. We have detected massive movement from the HFY fleet. They are not just sending regular ships." "Explain, Captain." "They are bringing Times Thanatos **, Admiral. The war moon. It is heading straight for Earth." Chen felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. She had heard about Times Thanatos times but hoped she would never see it. The HFY war moon was the size of a small planet. It carried weapons that could crack worlds in half. It had destroyed 6 human colonies in the past year. "How long until it reaches Earth?" she asked. 48 hours, Admiral. Maybe less if they push their engines." Chen closed her eyes and tried to think. Even if humanity gathered every remaining ship, they could not fight Times Thanatos **. The war moon had armor that could resist anything humans could throw at it. Its weapons could destroy an entire fleet with a single shot. She opened her eyes and looked at Dr. Webb. "Doctor, I want you to find every record about the Times Indomitable **. Every sensor reading, every transmission, every rumor. If that ship is still out there, we need to find it." "Admiral," Webb said quietly, "even if we could find it, Captain Vasquez would be over 240 years old. No human lives that long." Chen stood up and looked out at the stars. "Doctor, we are about to be killed by aliens with technology we cannot understand. Our entire species is about to be wiped out. At this point, I am willing to believe in anything that might save us." She turned back to her crew. "We have 48 hours to find a ghost ship and a dead captain. Let us get started." The alarms on Admiral Chen's ship began screaming at exactly 6:30 Earth time. She had been sleeping for only 2 hours when Lieutenant Park's voice came over the ship's communication system. Admiral Chen, to the bridge immediately. The Kethvar fleet has arrived. Chen jumped out of bed and ran to the bridge, still wearing her sleep clothes. When she arrived, she saw her crew staring at the main display screen in shock. The screen showed the edge of the solar system, and it was filled with enemy ships. "How many?" Chen asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Over 10,000 ships, Admiral," reported Commander Rodriguez. "And that is just what we can count. More are still coming through their jump points." Chen looked at the screen and felt her heart sink. The Kethvar fleet was like a dark cloud spreading across space. Their ships came in all sizes, from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts. But in the center of the fleet was something that made Chen's blood run cold. Thanatos *, the War Moon. It was gray and covered with weapons. Huge cannons stuck out from its surface like the spines of some terrible creature. It was bigger than Earth's moon, and moved with the slow, steady motion of something that knew it could not be stopped. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Park, "we are receiving a transmission from the Kethvar flagship. Put it through." The image of a Kethvar commander appeared on the screen. The alien was tall and thin, with dark purple skin and yellow eyes that glowed in the darkness. When it spoke, its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Humans," it said. "This is Commander Vextar of the Hegemony Fleet. You have 6 hours to surrender completely. Lower all shields, disable all weapons, and prepare to be destroyed. If you resist, we will make your deaths slow and painful." The transmission ended. Chen looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They all knew they were about to die. The human fleet had only 43 ships left. Most of them were damaged from previous battles. Against 10,000 Kethvar ships and the War Moon, they had no chance at all. "Admiral," said Rodriguez quietly, "what are your orders?" Chen was about to answer when the sensor operator suddenly sat up straight at his station. "Admiral, I am reading something strange. There is a ship approaching from outside the system." "Kethvar reinforcements?" Chen asked. "No, Admiral. The signature is different. It is not like anything in our databases. The ship appears to be moving at impossible speeds, and it keeps disappearing and reappearing on our sensors." Chen walked over to the sensor station. On the screen, she could see a small dot moving toward the solar system. But the dot was flickering in and out of existence, like it was jumping between different realities. "How fast is it moving?" she asked. "That is the strange part, Admiral. According to our readings, it is moving faster than light speed, but not using any kind of jump drive we know about. It is like the ship is bending space around itself." Commander Rodriguez joined them at the sensor station. "Could it be some kind of new Kethvar weapon?" "I do not think so," the sensor operator said. "The energy signature is completely different. It almost looks like—" He stopped and checked his readings again. "Admiral, this sounds crazy, but it almost looks like human technology. Very advanced human technology." Chen felt something strange happen in her chest. Could it be possible? After 2 days of searching through every record and database, Dr. Webb had found no trace of the time's indomitable asterisk. The legendary ship seemed to be nothing more than a story, but now there was an unknown ship approaching, using technology that should not exist. "Time until the unknown ship reaches us?" Chen asked. "At its current speed, about 20 minutes, Admiral." "And the Kethvar fleet?" "They are holding position at the edge of the system. It looks like they are waiting for something. Maybe for us to surrender." Chen made a decision. "Hail the unknown ship. Let us see who is out there." Lieutenant Park worked at his station for several seconds. "Admiral, I am not getting any response. But wait. I am detecting something. The ship is sending out some kind of signal. It is very weak. Can you boost it?" "I will try." Park adjusted his controls, and suddenly the bridge speakers crackled to life. What they heard made everyone on the bridge freeze in place. A woman's voice, calm and clear, spoke through the static. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth. Ship times, indomitable asterisk. We have been expecting them. The bridge went completely silent. Chen felt like she had stopped breathing. Elena Vasquez had disappeared 200 years ago. She should be dead. No human could live that long. Admiral, whispered Rodriguez, that is impossible. But before Chen could respond, the unknown ship appeared on their main viewing screen. What they saw made everyone on the bridge gasp in amazement. It was the Times' indomitable asterisk, but it was not the same ship they had seen in Dr. Webb's historical files. This ship was bigger, sleeker, and covered with weapons that seemed to glow with their own inner light. The hull was dark and smooth, like it was made from some kind of liquid metal. Strange patterns of light moved across its surface like living things. Most incredible of all, the ship looked like it had been in battle many times. There were scars and marks on its hull, but they had been repaired with technology that looked far more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. Admiral, said the sensor operator in a shaking voice, that ship is reading as over 2 kilometers long. It is 3 times bigger than our largest warship. And its energy output, Admiral, its energy output is higher than our entire fleet combined. Chen stared at the ship on the screen. How was this possible? How could a ship that had been missing for 200 years suddenly appear, bigger and more powerful than before? Admiral, Park said, the ship is hailing us again. Put it through. Captain Vasquez's voice filled the bridge again. But this time, it was clearer. Admiral Chen, I know you have many questions. I wish I had time to answer them all, but the Kethvar fleet will begin their attack in 4 hours and 37 minutes. Prometheus has calculated their battle plan down to the smallest detail. Chen found her voice. Captain Vasquez, how are you alive? Where have you been for 200 years? There was a pause before Vasquez answered. Time moves differently when you are between realities, Admiral. Prometheus and I have been preparing for this moment. We have been waiting for the Kethvar to make their final move against Earth. Captain, we have over 10,000 enemy ships and a war moon that can destroy planets. Even with your ship, I do not see how we can win. Vasquez's voice carried a note of something that might have been amusement. Admiral, you are thinking like the old humanity. The humanity that ran from every fight. But I have learned something in my travels between the stars. Sometimes the best way to win a war is not to fight it the way your enemy expects. On the viewing screen, the Times, indomitable Times, began moving toward the massive Kethvar fleet. 1 ship against 10,000. Captain, Chen called out, what are you doing? What I said I would do 200 years ago, Admiral. Going hunting. Admiral Chen watched through her ship's main screen as the Times, indomitable Times, moved toward the Kethvar fleet. The human ship looked tiny compared to the thousands of enemy vessels waiting for it. It was like watching a single bird fly toward a storm cloud. Admiral, said Commander Rodriguez, should we follow and support them? Chen shook her head. With what? Our 43 damaged ships against 10,000? Captain Vasquez knows what she is doing. We would only get in her way. But Admiral, it is suicide. No matter how advanced that ship is, it cannot fight an entire fleet by itself. Before Chen could answer, the battle began. The Kethvar ships opened fire first. Thousands of energy beams and missiles flew through space toward the Times' indomitable asterisk. The light from all the weapons firing at once was so bright that the viewing screen had to dim automatically to protect their eyes. Chen expected to see the legendary ship destroyed in seconds. Instead, something impossible happened. The Times, indomitable Times, simply was not there when the weapons arrived. What just happened? Rodriguez asked in confusion. The sensor operator was frantically checking his instruments. Admiral, the ship just moved. But not in any way I have ever seen before. It did not accelerate or turn. It just appeared in a completely different location. On the screen, the Times, indomitable Times, materialized behind a group of Kethvar cruisers. Its weapons fired. But they were not like any human weapons Chen had ever seen. Beams of blue-white light reached out and touched 3 enemy ships. The Kethvar vessels simply stopped moving. Their lights went out, and they began drifting in space like dead things. Did those ships just shut down? Rodriguez asked. Before anyone could answer, the Times, indomitable Times, vanished again and reappeared on the other side of the enemy fleet. More of its strange weapons fired. This time, Chen counted 12 HFY ships that went dark and stopped fighting. "Admiral," said the sensor operator, "those enemy ships are not destroyed, they are just disabled. All their systems have been turned off, but the crews appear to be alive." The HFY fleet began to change formation, trying to surround the human ship. But every time they moved to attack, the Times, indomitable Times, was somewhere else. It moved through space like it was dancing, appearing and disappearing faster than the eye could follow. "How is it moving like that?" Chen asked. Dr. Webb, who had been quietly studying his instruments, looked up with amazement in his eyes. "Admiral, I think I understand. The ship is not moving through normal space, it is jumping in and out of reality itself. Prometheus has learned to bend the laws of physics." The battle continued, but it was unlike any battle Chen had ever seen. The Times, indomitable Times, did not fight like a normal warship. It fought like something that knew exactly what every enemy ship would do before they did it. When HFY vessels fired their weapons, the human ship was already gone. When they tried to surround it, it appeared behind them instead. More and more enemy ships went dark as the Times, indomitable Times' strange weapons touched them. The HFY fleet was not being destroyed, but it was being systematically shut down. In less than an hour, over 300 enemy ships had been disabled. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Park, "I am receiving a transmission from the Times, indomitable asterisk." "Put it through." Captain Vasquez's voice filled the bridge, but this time it sounded different. There was something strange about it, like two people speaking at the same time. "Admiral Chen, I know you are wondering how this is possible. I should explain what Prometheus and I have become." "Captain," Chen said, "what happened to you out there? 200 years ago, when we left Earth, Prometheus was just a very advanced computer. But during our travels, something unexpected happened. Prometheus began to evolve. It learned not just about tactics and strategy, but about reality itself. And I began to merge with it." Chen felt cold. "Merge? What do you mean?" "I mean that I am no longer just human, Admiral, and Prometheus is no longer just a machine. We are something new, something that can think and fight in ways that neither humans nor machines could do alone." On the viewing screen, the Times, indomitable Times, reappeared, next to a massive HFY dreadnought. The enemy ship was 10 times larger. But when the human ship fired, the dreadnought simply stopped. All its weapons went silent. All its lights went out. "The HFY have been conquering worlds for thousands of years," Vasquez continued. "They think they understand war. But they have never fought an enemy that could predict their every move. Prometheus and I can see the entire battle like a chess game that has already been played." Chen watched as more enemy ships were disabled. The HFY were trying everything they could think of. They fired different weapons, used different tactics, even tried ramming the Times, indomitable Times, with their ships. But nothing worked. The human ship was always one step ahead. "Captain," Chen asked, "how are you disabling their ships without destroying them?" "Prometheus has learned to understand alien technology better than the aliens themselves. We are not destroying their ships, Admiral. We are simply turning them off. The crews are alive, but powerless." Commander Rodriguez looked troubled. "Admiral, if Captain Vasquez has merged with a machine, is she still human?" Before Chen could answer, alarms began sounding throughout her ship. The sensor operator called out in alarm, "Admiral, the War Moon Times, Thanatos Times, is powering up its main weapon. It is aiming directly at Earth." Chen looked at the screen and saw the massive War Moon beginning to glow with terrible energy. Weapons the size of mountains were charging up with power that could crack a planet in half. "How long until it fires?" she asked. 3 minutes, Admiral." Chen felt panic rising in her chest. The Times, indomitable Times, was still fighting thousands of enemy ships on the other side of the solar system. Even if it could move instantly, could it stop a weapon that big? "Captain Vasquez," Chen called out, "the War Moon is about to fire at Earth." Vasquez's voice came back immediately, and this time Chen could hear something like laughter in it. Admiral, do you trust me? Captain, I do not see how even you can stop that weapon. Then let me show you what Prometheus and I learned during our 200 years between the stars. Sometimes the best way to win a battle is not to stop your enemy's strongest weapon, but to make sure it hits the right target. Chen did not understand what that meant, but she had no choice but to trust the legendary captain. On the viewing screen, the War Moon Times, Thanatos Times, continued to charge its planet-killing weapon. In 2 minutes, Earth would be destroyed, but the Times' indomitable Times was not moving to stop it. Instead, the ship suddenly appeared in the middle of the HFY fleet and began doing something that made no sense at all. It was connecting all the enemy ships together with beams of light. Admiral Chen stared at the viewing screen in confusion. The Times, indomitable Times, was connecting the HFY ships with beams of strange blue light. The beams jumped from ship to ship like lightning, creating a web that stretched across the entire enemy fleet. "What is Captain Vasquez doing?" Commander Rodriguez asked. "The War Moon will fire in 90 seconds. Chen could see the massive Times Thanatos Times glowing brighter and brighter as its planet-killing weapon charged up. The weapon was aimed directly at Earth, and there was no way to stop it. But instead of attacking the War Moon, the Times, indomitable Times, was still connecting enemy ships with those mysterious beams of light. "Admiral," said the sensor operator, "I am reading some kind of quantum field building up around the HFY fleet. The energy patterns are unlike anything I have ever seen." Dr. Webb was studying his instruments with wide eyes. "Admiral, I think I understand what Captain Vasquez is doing. Those are not just beams of light. They are quantum entanglement fields. She is linking every ship in the HFY fleet together at the atomic level." "What does that mean?" Chen asked. "It means that whatever happens to one ship will happen to all of them at exactly the same time," Webb explained. "But Admiral, the amount of energy required to create a quantum field that big should be impossible." Captain Vasquez's voice came through the ship's speakers. "Admiral Chen, in 60 seconds the War Moon will fire its planet-killer weapon at Earth. But Prometheus and I have learned something very interesting about HFY technology. Their weapons use quantum energy fields to focus their destructive power." Chen felt her heart racing. "Captain, please tell me you have a plan. The same technology they use to destroy planets can be redirected through quantum space. When Times Thanatos Times fires at Earth, its weapon will instead hit every ship in their fleet at the same time." Rodriguez looked shocked. "That will kill millions of aliens." "No, Commander," Vasquez replied. "Prometheus has calculated the exact power levels needed. The weapon will be spread out across 10,000 ships. Instead of focused on one planet, it will shut down their systems and knock out their crews, but it will not kill them." Chen looked at the War Moon on the screen. It was almost ready to fire. The glow from its weapons was so bright that it hurt to look at directly. 30 seconds. "Admiral," reported the sensor operator. "Captain Vasquez," Chen called out. "Are you sure this will work?" "Admiral, 200 years ago I promised that humanity would never surrender. Today, I am going to show the galaxy why that promise means something." The final seconds counted down. Chen found herself holding her breath as she watched the War Moon prepare to destroy Earth. Around the HFY fleet, the blue beams of light from the Times, indomitable Times, were glowing brighter and brighter. 10 seconds, the sensor operator whispered. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The War Moon Times, Thanatos Times, fired. A beam of energy that could destroy planets shot out from the massive weapon and raced toward Earth. But just as it was about to reach the planet, something impossible happened. The beam suddenly changed direction and split into thousands of smaller beams. Every one of those beams hit a different HFY ship at the exact same moment. The effect was incredible. Across the enemy fleet, 10,000 ships suddenly went dark. Their engines shut down, their weapons stopped firing, and their lights went out. The ships did not explode or break apart. They simply stopped working, floating in space like sleeping giants. Chen stared at the screen in amazement. The entire HFY fleet had been defeated in a single moment, using their own most powerful weapon against them. "All enemy ships are disabled, Admiral," reported the sensor operator in a shaking voice. "I am reading life signs on all vessels. but their crews appeared to be unconscious. Even the War Moon Times, Thanatos Times, has shut down completely. The bridge was silent for several moments as everyone tried to understand what they had just seen. The war was over. Humanity had won, but not through superior firepower or better tactics. They had won because one legendary ship had turned the enemy's strength against them. Admiral Chen. Captain Vasquez's voice came through the speakers one more time. The HFY fleet is defeated, but not destroyed. Their crews will wake up in a few hours. When they do, they will find that their weapons have been permanently disabled. They can go home, but they can never attack another world. Chen found her voice. Captain, how did you know this would work? Because Prometheus and I spent 200 years studying every alien race we could find. We learned that most conflicts in the galaxy happen because species are afraid of each other. The HFY conquer worlds because they believe that only the strong deserve to survive. Today, they learned that there is something stronger than conquest. What is that? Wisdom, Admiral. The wisdom to win without destroying your enemy. The wisdom to turn their own strength against their cruelty. On the viewing screen, the Times, Indomitable Times, slowly moved toward Earth. As it got closer, Chen could see that the ship was changing. The strange patterns of light on its hull were fading, and it began to look more like a normal human warship again. Captain Vasquez, Chen said, what will you do now? Prometheus and I have spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. But our work is not finished. There are other hostile races in the galaxy, other species that prey on the weak. Humanity has proven today that it will not surrender, no matter how impossible the odds. Now it is time for humanity to become something more. What do you mean? The galaxy needs protectors, Admiral. Species that will stand up for those who cannot defend themselves. The HFY conquered worlds because no one was strong enough to stop them. That ends today. Thanks for watching. That ends today. Chen felt something stirring in her chest. For 3 years, humanity had been running and hiding from enemies. They had been the victims, the ones who needed protection. But now, things were different. Admiral, Vasquez continued, I am transferring command of the Times, Indomitable Times, to you and your fleet. Prometheus has prepared detailed files on dozens of alien races and their technologies. Some are peaceful and need protection. Others are hostile and need to be stopped. Captain, are you not staying to help us? There was a pause before Vasquez answered. Prometheus and I have one more mission to complete. There are signals coming from outside the galaxy. Other threats that may come to our universe someday. We need to investigate them and prepare defenses. As the Times Indomitable Times took its place alongside the human fleet, Chen felt a new sense of purpose. Humanity had been saved, but more than that, they had been given a new role in the galaxy. Captain Vasquez, Chen said, thank you for keeping your promise. Humanity did not surrender. No, Admiral, and now the galaxy will learn what that means. The legend was never about one ship or one captain. It was about what humanity becomes when we refuse to give up. Today, the galaxy learned that lesson. Tomorrow, we make sure they never forget it. The war was over. But for humanity, a new chapter was just beginning.